unfortunately still is in lockdown. So we're having another online program, which also has a great advantage because we invited 14 teachers to celebrate with us the Days of Miracles. And we have 3 amazing translators with us. So Venerable Sayana will translate into Italian and is joining us from our sister center, Istituto Lama Zopa in Italy. Venerable Paloma is joining us from Nagarjuna in Valencia and translating into Spanish. And Bruno is joining us from our Brazilian sister center. So if you needed any language translation, please go onto your menu. And then there you see the Italian. Oh, now I lost you all. There you see the interpretation channel. Yeah, so you can just click on that and then you get the interpretations into Spanish, Italian, and Portuguese. I think after 2 years of Zoom, we all got, you know, little experts in Zoom. So I think that would be, Venerable Robina. Can you hear me? We cannot hear you yet.
I'm here, yes.
Oh, welcome, Venerable Robina. Another Losar, 1 year has gone.
That's right, exactly.
We're starting a little tradition now. We are so we are so happy to have you back. Thank you so much. Happy Losar.
Yeah.
Like last year, some Losar offerings, not last year.
Thank you.
New ones.
Exactly. Perfect.
We are so happy. Venerable Robina, where are you joining us from? I think we're almost on the same time zone.
I'm in London, basically in London, yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. Venerable Robina, I haven't introduced you yet. Do you mind if I say a few words?
Well, that's okay.
Yeah. So, Venerable Robina, I think most of you are familiar with her, but she's from Australia. And in the 1970s, she met Lama Yeshe. So today is not only Losar, but we also honor Lama Yeshe's date of passing away. So it's the anniversary. And we invited Venerable Robina to tell us stories about Lama Yeshe. So without Lama Yeshe, all of us wouldn't be here. Tushita wouldn't exist. So our gratitude, of course, is immense. So we invited Venerable Robina, like last year, to please tell us stories and teachings from Lama Yeshe. And Venerable Robina, Venerable Robina was a Catholic when she was small, and she wanted to become a priest. I remember that from last year. She was yearning to become a priest, not being aware that she was a girl, and it wasn't really kind of possible. And then she was obsessed with Elvis Presley. I remember that from last year. So she mentioned a few times that she was a curious mixture of, being, kind of holy and a little bit rebellious. In that way, and then she became still is. Sorry, Venerable Robina. Then she became a radical hippie, a radical communist, a radical feminist, a radical something, I can't remember, something amazing. And then at some point, as she often kind of puts it, she ran out of options. Who to blame in this world. And there is that nice story about the car. Maybe Venerable Robina can mention to us or tell us a little bit later how a car ran over her foot and she was kind of, she had to rest, which whoever knows Venerable Robina a little bit is a hard thing to do. And then she saw the name of Lama Yeshe on a poster. And this is how it all started, the story. And I'm sure Venerable Robina will tell us more. And since then, Venerable Robina she became ordained in 78 and has been working tirelessly for FPMT for 45 years. Quite amazing. Has been the editorial director of Wisdom Magazine, the founder of Prison Project, who takes care of prisoners in the US, Australia, Europe. Amazing project, and has taught since the 1980s tirelessly all around the world. So Thank you so much, Venerable Robina. And your connection to Tushita is back to 1978, I believe, when you did your first retreat at Tushita.
That's right, I did.
So we are so very honored. And Venerable Robina, could we request you to lead us maybe in a mandala offering just for the auspiciousness? And we are so happy to have you.
And what's interesting today also is that it is, I mean, the day in the Western calendar that Lama passed away is March 3. So that's also coinciding because today is March 3. 1984, March 3, Lama passed away at dawn. Yeah. So we offer mandala, which is just all the contents. We don't know the Buddhist, cosmological view of the universe. We'll just use the one we know, all the lovely things of the world, the objects of the senses. We pile them all up and we offer to the Guru Buddha as an offering, in offering the entire universe and requesting blessings and realizations. Saji perki jugshing metog tramri rablingji ni de gen padi sangye jingdu mikte urwagi Drokon nam dag jingla chapashog. Let's also offer the inner mandala. I think it's about Yogini, and Lama Yeshe would always have us do this from the very beginning. So it's basically offering all our delusions and all the objects of our delusions, our friends, enemies, strangers, all our nonsense, kind of like offer it all to the Buddha. Let go of all of it, all the nonsense. Dagi chagdang mongsum kepe yul dranyen barsum ludang long cheche pangpa mepa pulgi legjene duksum rangsa drolwa jingilo idam guru ratna mandala kam niyatayami. Okay. Shall I say something then? It's my turn. Okay. It's interesting because, if some of you were around at that time, you'll know that we published a magazine. When I was working for Wisdom with Nick Rinpoche, we were based in London, actually, right at this time in 1984. And the year before that, or 2 years, we published a magazine that we called Wisdom. And it was really like the forerunner of Mandala magazine. Yeshe Kado and I worked on it, and Nick published it as Wisdom director. And then we started the second one for 1984, and then Lama passed away. So it delayed. We spent quite a few months preparing it, and it's this extraordinary report. We did like a 30-page, it's news about all the centers, but the main report was a 30-page report about Lama's passing away, just the funeral and all the background and the stories. In fact, just now, Nick Rinpoche, it got sponsored and we scanned the magazine. So the magazine is now available as a PDF. So I'm very happy to put it on I'll send it to you, Kunpen. And I think it's quite a fat file, but you can download it. It's offered to everybody. This amazing magazine, this extraordinary moving story. I think it's on the FPMT website, but none of the photos. This is a scan of the actual magazine. It's very, very moving to read it, but at least a 30-page report. And also in there's other reports of Trijang Rinpoche passing away, Ling Rinpoche, some of these amazing lamas, but the main report is 30 pages about Lama's funeral itself and the running up to that and how he got sick and how he passed away. It's very inspiring. I'll send it to you, Kunpen, and people can have it. Okay, so what to say about Lama? This is true. When I was, radical sort of political activist looking for truth, I suppose. I didn't say those words, we're all looking for the truth. We've all got our own stories of how we kind of stumbled across Buddhism, really, how our merit ripened, really, isn't it? Meeting the Dharma. That was very true. It was very vivid. I was sitting in a restaurant after I'd broken my foot. Two women ran. I was doing karate, and I sort of I felt I'd found my path, and I was totally committed to my kung fu, my karate career. And then I was helping these two women in Melbourne at an intersection push their car, which had broken down. And somehow some fellow ran over my foot. And I remember shocked that my karate career had finished. I was shocked and depressed, And this fellow who ran over my foot, his name is Bill Bright. And I'm sort of super grateful to him because he stopped me in my tracks. And I always kind of imagined it was Lama Yeshe, manifesting to run over my foot to stop me in my tracks. So I was sitting in this restaurant, totally depressed. And I saw a poster about a course up at Chenrezig Institute. It was June 76. But all I remembered was the name Lama Yeshe. And until this day, I am convinced I'd heard his name before. But of course I hadn't. That's how karma is, you know. It was familiar to me. And the first thought I had when I saw that name, Lama Yeshe, it said, was, why have I heard his name before? I was convinced I'd heard it. And I'm sure I haven't, but that was the feeling. And so then I had nothing else to do. My foot was broken. I couldn't do karate. So I decided I would go. And that's how I met the Lamas, you know. And so this is where I first could see the extraordinary way that Lama benefited people. I mean, Lama Zopa Rinpoche gave it. The first was a 1-month Lamrim course, a Kopan style, you know. It was, I think, the second or the third in Australia. It was, I think, Chenrezig was the first center after, Tushita was the first center after Kopan. Then I think Chenrezig was the next center after that, you know. And I, you know, it was 76 June, and I remember 200 people completely packed. The Gompa had just been built. And Lama Zopa Rinpoche's Lamrim course. I mean, first of all, when I got there, you know, this is how karma is, we know. I knew this is where I had to be. It was shocking to me. I couldn't understand a word Lama Zopa said. I understood his words, but not the concepts, not the background, not the structure. But when Lama Yeshe came along in the evenings, that's when I like sighed with relief, you know. So then, of course, I became a nun 18 months later. And since that, one of my jobs, this is where I really can see the incredible benefit of Lama with his teaching. I mean, you know, we all know, if we've heard teachings from traditional Tibetan sources, it might as well be the 14th century. I mean, that's the good thing about Tibet, isn't it? That the teachings were kept intact. They didn't become degenerate. So even the way they talked was, the way they teach is exactly as if they're sitting at the feet of Lama Tsongkhapa, literally 14th century. So when we hear translations of that, it's quite shocking because we can't find a way, we don't know how to put it together. So this is the astonishing skill of Lama, you know. And then when, of course, you read about him in that biography that Adele did, from the very beginning, when he started to learn English, first of all, his English was completely chaotic, you know. But he had no ego, so he didn't care how he sounded. But he somehow, from meeting that first Western student, he kind of immediately could pick up the way Western modern minds work. And that's pretty astonishing. I mean, his English, when I edit his teachings, that's when you get really close. I have to go into the transcripts and edit word by word. And what blows my mind still, you know, the last book I worked on was his teachings on Mahamudra. You know, he gave that teaching in Australia in 84 or something, 82 or something. But he just had this extraordinary ability. And I'm always amazed. Every time I have to edit, it always amazes me more. He had this unbelievable ability to talk like a modern person. And that's astonishing when you understand his background, you know. It's really amazing. And for me, I always joke that he was born a hippie, right? He was just born a hippie. He was born, and his choice of words. I mean, what I did, I know when I wrote the preface for Mahamudra, you know, identified something like 21 different terms that Lama used for the typical word that we all know is used in the Buddhist and the Tibetan and Indian literature for the neuroses, for the delusions. And that word, as we know, is afflictions. It's a really fine English word. And that's what everybody uses. One word, it's afflictions. Lama came up with 21 different terms, half of them made up by him. Outrageous, ridiculous terms, you know, in his unbelievable effort to communicate. I mean, when you read his terms, you can't help but understand what he means by affliction. But just to say the word affliction, and certainly in English, I mean, I know with Paloma and Ciliana always talking about this when they translate for me, it's really such an old-fashioned word in English. It's very arcane. And also because we keep saying afflictions as if somehow attachment and anger and jealousy and pride are special Buddhist problems. But, you know, when you have mental problems, they're called PTSD and OCD and bipolar. We sort of take those more seriously, you know. But then you've got the Buddhist afflictions. I mean, you don't go to your therapist and say, I've got an affliction. They'd laugh at you. So it's really important the way Lama was all the time cutting through the, you know, the culture, cutting through the cultural packaging to communicate with us. He didn't, I mean, you know, and that's what for me continually blows my mind about Lama Yeshe. He always kept it simple. In fact, he was a scholar. He was renowned as a scholar, you know. not to mention being a yogi as well, but absolutely a scholar. He was one of the best debaters, it seems. He didn't finish his Geshe degree, but he was no question super educated. But he had this incredible humility, you know, to be able just to cut through and speak simply for our minds. I mean, unbelievably kind, you know, unbelievably. I mean, that overwhelms me every time I have to edit his teachings. It's absolutely incredible. So that was his enormous, and also the way he somehow, I mean, we all knew he had a bad heart, isn't it? We knew he had a bad heart. And we'd hear about that, but we all could see he just had this incredible charisma, didn't he? And he had this incredible way of making people feel happy, making people feel good. He one teaching, I know at Chenrezig, one short evening teaching from Lama, you suddenly relaxed. It suddenly felt that it was possible. He made it accessible and possible, you know. It's always made you relaxed and easygoing. You know, he was very tough, there's no question, if you needed it, but he had this very sweet way of making it sound accessible. And so he had this with his personality. I mean, I remember he'd said to Westerners at the time, all the hippies, you know, you people don't even know how to be happy. You know how to suffer. You don't even know how to be happy. So it seems like, you know, he'd always try to have picnics. He'd talk about cheesecake and pizza. So of course we all thought that Lama liked picnics and Lama liked pizza and cheesecake. I mean, Lama Yeshe couldn't care less about picnics and pizza, for God's sake. He was trying to make us feel happy, make us feel, and endlessly having picnics and parties, you know, to make people laugh, to make people ordinary. Because we all know when you first get involved in something like a spiritual path, you become very fundamentalist. You know, you're not supposed to be happy. You're supposed to be miserable the whole time. He constantly cut across that. He'd always say, the more pleasure, the better, you know. He'd say words that were shocking because he continually tried to make us feel good and to lift us. And that's what I find mind-blowing as well. How Lama, you know, would teach the essence of tantric psychology. I mean, we all know, we hear about tantra. We know, as Lama says, it's technical, highly technical. But he would get the essence of the psychology of it, the approach, the attitude. And in just one small talk, you'd get the essence, you'd understand the meaning in general about tantra. How it means, you know, I mean, especially the one of divine pride. He all the time talked like that. You'd understand, you mightn't understand the technology of it, but you understood that, you know, as he would tell us, these practices, you're visualizing the end result. And as we know in Tantra, they say Tantra is bringing the end result into the present. So you're visualizing Tara and you imagine yourself lifting your own view of yourself and imagining you are Tara. So, I mean, it was like instant understanding of of tantric psychology. You know, instead of instantly identifying with your good qualities, identifying with your confidence. He made us feel that we needed to have self-confidence, which of course, when you've got ego, you don't have. You think you're miserable. He just had this extraordinary skill. And I remember even vividly, I remember when I first got to Kopan, I met them in June 76 and I came to Kopan in November 77 and became a nun soon after that, early 78, at Losar actually. Lama Yeshe sent me to Lama Zopa, but that's a different discussion. So anyway, I remember, because I like publishing and editing, and at Kopan at the time, they had a room called the publishing room, which Nick Rebush was in charge of, you know, and they had those Roneo machines, those old-fashioned ways of duplicating things, right? And of course, I loved doing all that. So I went straight in there and worked there and typed all the prayers. And I remember this particular practice that Lama mentioned, you know, called inner fire. And I thought, then I started checking up on it, and you realize it's not just Tantra, but it's highest. It's the highest level of teachings. And there's Lama bringing this highest practice down to ordinary people who've never heard of Tantra. He just had this ability, you know, it's cutting through tradition. It could be considered very shocking of him to do that. But he'd always say, you know, that somehow the concept in Tantra of transformation, of utilizing energy and transforming it into something different, which really is what you're doing with Tantra. You're taking the garbage of your mind and you're utilizing it as you're on your path to enlightenment. He always said, you know, you guys, what modern people understand it. And of course, it's logical because modern world, which is now universal, not just Western, is totally a desire realm. I mean, we are the epitome of attachment realm. We have endless attachment objects. Attachment is totally vivid. So it makes sense, actually, because Tantra flourishes, you know, when there is lots of attachment. And somehow Lama could just see this, and he had the ability to make it really simple. But I remember this inner fire meditation, he made it very simple for people in this ordinary prayer book. I remember I was shocked when I saw that it was the highest completion stage Tantra, you know. He was just remarkable, Lama. He had this extraordinary ability, you know, to cut through, to see the essence of it all, and to know how to communicate. And I suppose if you analyze it, I mean, if you're really trying to be a Buddhist, you're learning to know your mind intimately. And if you know your mind intimately, meaning you identify the delusions, you identify the virtues, you know, which is a very direct method, not like our modern psychology, where you mainly talk about what the things that people did to you and what your mummy did and what your daddy did and what your past life was like. But here, the Buddha's view is dealing with your own actual thoughts. That's unique to the Buddha. So if you're doing that job properly, we all can see ourselves. Even if you know your mind a little bit, it helps you see other people. So it's really obvious that the incredible benefit of the Buddhist approach in the way that enables you to help other people. So you can imagine people like Lama, the qualified yogis, not only can see our minds roughly, but they can see them clearly because they also got clairvoyance, you know. But Lama's ability to be spacious was to be not fundamentalist. I remember one story, one of our, I think Yeshe Kadro told me, when she was the director at Chenrezig when I got there, you know. And that was, first of all, that's unusual for Lama. This is back in the 1970s. And there's Yeshe Kadro, this cute 23-year-old nun. And Lama made her his attendant. So, and then he appointed her to be the director of this center. But often she'd act as his attendant. He would take her down to Sarah J in India to these monasteries of men, this cute Dakini nun as his assistant. And he wasn't even a Geshe. I mean, Tibetans did not have respect for him then. That was very clear. He didn't care what people thought, you know. He was amazing like that. Anyway, I forget, I was mentioning Yeshe Kadro now. I can't remember. I don't know why I mentioned her. So I went off another point. He had this ability to be modern, to and not be afraid of that, not be traditional, you know, bringing Tantra to us immediately, the essence of it, getting us to understand divine pride, lifting our view of ourselves, having self-respect. I mean, it was just unusual. It was remarkable, actually. Not many people like him. I remember one time people just adored him, and women adored him. But there was something so clean. You never had any whiff of kind of attachment or anything, you know. I mean, lots of girls fell in love with Lama Zopa, apparently, and they were kind of wacko. They would stalk Lama Zopa. They would try and climb into his window. But Lama Yeshe, somehow it was clean the way everybody liked Lama. They just adored Lama. I remember these different stories about how kind he was. I remember there's one woman in Hong Kong. I remember spending time in Hong Kong when Lama was there. And Mummy Max, you know, one of the first nuns, she lives in Santa Fe now, who was very close to Lama, taking care of Lama. She had bought him this outrageous Japanese royal, what do you call it, kimono, you know. So he came down to breakfast in this hotel with this outrageous kimono on, and his sunnies and his baseball hat, you know. But I remember going around Hong Kong with him. Women would stop him in the street. Women just adored Lama. I can't tell you. I remember young woman from Beverly Hills, who was kind of a nice girl and very moral, and she'd fallen in love with a married man. And she was freaking out about breaking, you know, not cheating on her, not doing the wrong thing ethically. And she said to me that Lama whispered to her, he said, don't tell anybody, but you go away and have a nice weekend with him, you know. I mean, he was just very encouraging in ways that you wouldn't expect. Yeshe Kadro told me, at Chenrezig, there was one woman who wanted to have an abortion. And no matter, you know, she had decided. So Yeshe Kadro rang Lama. Then Lama spoke to her and gave her a meditation on Tara to do before she had the abortion, you know. I mean, the kindness, nothing, no kind of fundamentalism. No, that's bad. So spacious, so incredibly kind. I mean, that's unusual, you know, anybody. That's unusual. The spaciousness of him. I mean, what can I say? All these stories like that. Everyone's got stories. But I think that's really, I think for myself, knowing where I was at that time, when I first met both Lamas, I mean, I knew immediately Lama Zopa was a holy being, but I didn't connect from the heart, you know. It was with Lama Yeshe. I knew Lama Zopa was a holy person, but I couldn't connect. And I'm not sure if I'd connected. I'm not sure if I would have stayed in the Dharma if it had not been for Lama Yeshe. Perhaps I would have, because it took me 10 years to recognize Lama Zopa Rinpoche as my guru. In fact, during my first retreat, my second retreat up at Tushita, my very first one was a 10-day Tara retreat when I took Getzel vows. Lama Yeshe organized the ordination for us. And anyway, the second retreat was my Bodhisattva retreat. I had this is in 1978. I had a vivid dream in which I was at the Nalanda ruins. You know, I hadn't been there, and I recognized it later when we'd go on pilgrimage. And the whole group of us, all the students were there, and Lama Zopa was teaching, and he called me out, and he put his text over one of my shoulders and his robe over my other shoulder, and he told me to follow him out. And it was a nice dream. And I told one Lama I knew in Dharamsala. He said, "Oh, that's the Lama who'll lead you to enlightenment." And I was very surprised, because I just thought, well, Lama Yeshe is my guru, you know. So that was 10 years before my heart was ready to see Lama Zopa as my guru, as well as Lama Yeshe. So it's kind of interesting how, you know, what works for us at different times. It's very interesting. I mean, some people obviously connected immediately with Lama Zopa Rinpoche. So I don't know, I can chat away here, but I think it's good if you ask questions or something. I don't know. How long have we got, Kunpen? What's the schedule? Can't hear you, darling.
We have 1.5 hours, Venerable Robina.
Okay, good. Okay, so now, I mean, do you have any questions? I mean, I don't know, I could chat away, but ask me some questions maybe. I don't know. Ask me some questions, if there are any.
Shall we ask the audience?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Ask some questions.
Anybody who has a question, you can raise either, well, we can't see you all, so best you go in your menu and there's that little yellow hand. Just click on that and
there we go. Anugraha, talk to me. Yes.
Anugraha,
yes.
Can you unmute?
Hello. Yeah, hello. Hello, Venerable Robina. Happy Losar to everyone. Could you please talk a little bit more about the guru relationship in Buddhism? Because, you know, I come from an Indian. Yeah,
exactly. It's a very good question. Yeah, let's talk about that. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, you know, I mean, we know if we read the classical Lamrim texts like Tsongkhapa or Pabonka Rinpoche's commentaries, it sounds like a very serious thing, you know, all these, and it's taught in this very traditional way, you know, the 18 advantages of devoting to the guru and the 18 disadvantages and how many eons in hell if you do this and don't do that. It's all a bit scary, you know. I mean, I couldn't possibly talk about it like that. I just can't. It's all there. But I think the thing that for me, what really works, you know, and this is what I got from Lama. This is the way I felt the connection with Lama. I mean, if we think about it, Lama would say, "We are all dying for love." I mean, it's such the sweetest way to put. We are all dying for love. So if we understand the way attachment works, the negative side of us, we all have this incredible attachment to be approved of. So even if we have good relationships, we love a person, we have compassion, but we all know if we're an ordinary person, the love and the compassion work alongside the attachment, the neediness, the expectations, the possessiveness, you know, we all know that how we all are. But with the guru, I think if you know, I can see them, I'll tell you my own experience. It's the only way I can talk about it. Just keep it simple. I can't talk too theoretically about it. I know for me, when I first saw Lama Yeshe, he was the one who grabbed me, right? He'd grab me, something like a recognition, a strong feeling of his qualities. He grabbed me, right? So that was my first course. I was there for 2 months. My second month was a retreat with Lama on the Chenrezig Guru Yoga, which in fact Wisdom published. I edited that. I was so happy to do that. You know, the inseparability of the Guru and Chenrezig. It's a beautiful teaching, a sadhana written by His Holiness when he was 19 at the request of one of his disciples. And when he was 19, that's 1940, 55 or something. And Lama gave this commentary on it. And I remember, so Lama, I connected with Lama. There's no question in my heart, you know, it blew my mind. I'd never had any relationship with a person like that in my life. I mean, I love my mother and all that business. I never had any close mentors at school. So it was the first person, even without close contact. I didn't have a personal meeting with him at that time in that first 2 months. It was the first person who I really touched my heart and a person whom I felt I could trust. I mean, I didn't know all the details about what you're supposed to do in order to develop a relationship with a guru, what's in the text. But what I observed was I did it automatically. So what I observed was I observed the students. I was very impressed by Yeshe Kadro and another couple of Sangha who were there. I was impressed by the students. And that surely is a good way to check on a teacher, isn't it? A teacher of anything, you know. You look at the product, you can't help but be, if you can't help but be impressed by the students, that proves a teacher's a good teacher. So that was the first one I did. And of course I checked on Lama Yeshe. I listened to his teachings. They went straight to my heart. They were very powerful. And then certainly you can't go past Lama Zopa Rinpoche, his main disciple. I mean, he was the most perfect example of the perfect product of a teacher, you know, the student of a teacher. So there was very good things that it gave you encouragement as a basis for wanting to see Lama. So I didn't use the word Lama as my guru, but when I went back home after 2 months, I went back to Melbourne and I did some practice every day, you know, and I remember halfway through that year, the penny dropped and I thought to myself, Lama is my guru. And I remember at that time, I'd still been a radical lefty political activist, and I was kind of embarrassed about the word guru. I said to my sister, Polly, I've got a guru, but don't tell anybody. You know, because I was also a radical feminist. So to have a male teacher sounds dreadful, you know. So anyway, it was no question about it from my mind. I'd done the checking, I'd thought about it, and it somehow became clear. So then 6 months, I think 6 months later, Lama came back to Chenrezig the following year, Lama Zopa as well. And I remember I'd done some work. We had a printing company and I had done a new version of the Wish Fulfilling Golden Sun. I kind of typed it. This was interesting, actually. I'm so proud, right? And I was a radical feminist at the time. And every second word was he this and he that. Now, when you edit books, you say they. You don't say he anymore. It's just not done. But back then in the 70s, and it was shocking to me, and I couldn't stand all this he this and he that. So I changed all the he's to whatever I'd say they, which is they is common now. You say they all the way through. And I remember I changed it all. And then at the last minute, I decided, it was Lama Zopa's teachings, right? I decided, no, I can't do it. I have to change it back to he. I tell you, that was a huge move on my part. I'll never forget. But we did this new version of the Wish Fulfilling Golden Sun. And I was very proud of it. And I wanted to let Lama know that I'd done it. So I demanded a meeting when I went back to Chenrezig. And I also demanded a meeting because I wanted to tell him he was my guru. I didn't know you're supposed to ask. I was so proud. So I informed Lama that he was my Lama. You know, I didn't even say the words. I said, I have respect for you. I was so proud. I couldn't say the word, you are my Lama, or even request. I didn't do that even. And he said, I know, dear. That's it. So, I mean, even from that, see, that's what I find interesting. This is the one about the guru, okay? I'd done my checking. I'd checked his teachings. I'd checked the students. I'd checked his peers. I heard that he had a good reputation. So I felt confident. And that's the crucial, I think this point is really crucial in the process of finding a teacher. And my sense is, this is in any body of knowledge, it's exactly the same. It's not unique to Buddhists. It's just that when we read the Buddhist literature, it's framed in a very ancient way. So we sort of think it's a unique thing. But I mean, no, of course not. I always use the example when I first learned to make a cake. It was actually from my mother when I was 25 or 26. And I'd done exactly the same. So the first point has to be, you have to want it. This has to be the first step. This is why in Buddhism, it's considered really outrageous behavior to force people, to try and convert people. It simply doesn't work psychologically. We all know when we were children, if we didn't want to study, no matter how much we had to go to school, we would not study. It's only when you decided you wanted to study. So it's so clear to me, even with my example of making a cake. I'd never wanted to. And then at the age of 25, I wanted to make a cake. So I thought I'd ask my mother, not out of just being kind to my mother, but I'd done my due diligence. I'd checked on her cakes. I'd checked on her students, my sisters, her peers. So I had done exactly the same. And the crucial question is, why would we do this? This is a really important point. Why would we do that? Why would we check up? Why would we do our due diligence? Because, very simple, I had never made a cake before. So meaning I didn't have experiential knowledge. So you have, the only knowledge you can get is intellectual. They call it inferential certainty. So when you check on the source, you check on the product, you check the students, then that is the way you get confidence. There's no other way you have. I mean, in other words, if I'd just gone to my mother and without checking, please show me how to make a cake, how would I ever know if she showed me, if she'd said 16 eggs, and then you do this, I would have no basis for having any confidence in her. But because I had checked, and this is what's interesting, because I had checked and I wanted it, all the conditions came together. And I remember, this is the important point for me, I remember the day, I remember the cake, because you know why? Because it was the first day that cakes became real for me from a human being. And it's in my memory, the day, the kitchen, it was apple and walnut cake. So that's exactly what Lama Yeshe said. He said, the Buddha is dead. So the only time the Four Noble Truths becomes real for us is when we hear it from the mouth of a person we have chosen to be the Buddha for us. I mean, he didn't say exactly like those words, but it's a logical thing. Of course you would check, because then you have inferential certainty. And then from the very first day, already I had experience. Already I can prove that my mother was a valid cake maker. And I haven't made a cake in 30 or 40 years. I guarantee I could do it properly again, because I learned it properly. I wanted to do it. I'd done my checking. And she proved she was good. That's exactly how it was with Lama Yeshe. Exactly. I did that. And then I committed. So I remember the first meeting after I had decided he was my guru, and he knew immediately. I didn't request him because he just knew I knew. Already from that first meeting, I remember it vividly. Something he said shocked me. In other words, he showed me my mind. If you want to analyze really what a guru's job is, I mean, my mother's job was to show me how to make a cake. I always remember Mr. Lee, my Kung Fu teacher, whom I checked up on as well. Because I remember the first time I did Kung Fu, years before that, I chose a particular club for the wrong reason. I didn't check on the teacher, and I learned Kung Fu or karate for 1 year, but I learned it wrongly and I didn't realize it. So then I saw even then the benefit of checking first to get a valid teacher, because otherwise you just led up a garden path, you know. So I remember with Lama's the job of a Buddhist teacher, a Buddhist mentor, it's a good word in English, mentor, is to show you your mind, not just sit there and give you teaching, so-called. It's to show you your mind. This is the most powerful teaching from the Lamas. So that first meeting, something he said shocked me, and it made me uncomfortable. Because why? Because I was seeing my mind. I was seeing my delusions. That's the job of our teacher. So in a sense, for me, we have all this, I mean, we can see in the modern world, we have all these misunderstandings about the role of a guru. They're going to, you know, I've got to do whatever they say. I have no power. They dominate me. We have these really bizarre ideas. And this is why I like to stress, we have to choose the guru. For that 10 years that I wasn't clear in my heart about Lama Zopa Rinpoche being my guru, even though I had that dream and it was clear he was, it took me 10 years for my heart to be ready. For that period, Lama Zopa just knew my mind wasn't committed. He knew my mind wasn't ready. He left me alone. He worked me, it's like he just was like a friend. He treated me like a friend. But from the moment, 10 years later, when the penny dropped, and I realized finally in my heart that he was my Lama also, immediately he changed in the way he was with me. Immediately he changed. So we choose the Lama. We choose the Lama. Do not doubt that. And I like to put it this way. We give them permission to show me my mind. We give them permission to show me my mind. I mean, I talk the same way about Mr. Lee, my Kung Fu teacher. He taught 6 days a week when I was living in London, and I went to 6 classes a week. Now, the man is not stupid. He could tell I wanted his Kung Fu. So he took me seriously. So he pushed me to the limit. He would shout at me. I didn't want to sue him. I was honored that he shouted at me because he could see I wanted his Kung Fu. So he gave me his Kung Fu. He could see I wanted it. That's exactly the same with the Lamas, you know. In fact, I find from the Lamas how kind. When they see your mind, they see what you're capable of, and they give you more sometimes than you're capable of. And they stretch you, and we should be so honored because their job is not just to be sweet and nice to us. Their job is to, and especially in our situation, for some of us, for whom Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa are the root gurus, well, not only are they our gurus, but we also work for them. We work for their centers. So they are also our worldly bosses. You know, like Kunpen works for the Lamas, Siliana works for the Lamas, Paloma works for the Lamas, I work for the Lamas. So they're not just our spiritual teacher, they're also like they're our boss, you know. So, I mean, then that the Lamas can see what we're capable of. And that's why if we all kind of compare notes, different students of Lama Yeshe, for example, will tell you completely different experiences because we all need different ways of being taught. You know, so, I mean, for me, Lama was so kind in kind of throwing me in the deep end, almost from the beginning, in his giving me jobs, you know, giving me things to do. It was painful for my delusions. It was really made me really taste my delusions. I mean, it's not comfortable at all, but how kind of them, how kind of these Lamas. Other people, I remember talking to John Landau. Whenever I thought of Lama, he scared me, you know, I felt he was very tall. But I have a photo of me with Lama. He's a little bit bigger than me. You know, I'm tiny. I'm 1.5 meters, you know. So it's like, but I think of him as enormous. And he scared me because he was always tough, but I never doubted his kindness. Never doubted for 1 second. Whereas John Landau said to me, he only ever saw Lama being sweet and gentle. So we all see different people because they show us, they know our mind. That's the job of a Lama. As Pabonka Rinpoche says, is my favorite line in the whole of Pabonka Rinpoche, choose your guru very carefully because you are going to end up like them. I love that, I tell you. So the Lama is skill. Their skill is to show us our mind. And they are, because they know the mind intimately, they're way eons ahead of us in knowing their own mind. All the garbage is gone, so they see the mind nakedly. And according to the ability of the student, they show you your mind, you know. So for me, that's the unbelievable gratitude I've got. I know there's very clear for me in my life. Lama Yeshe was the first person I trusted. The first person in my life I'd met who I trusted with my mind, whom I was happy to commit to. I didn't know what I was getting into really, but I was happy to commit to, that I trusted him, but I trusted he cared for me. I trusted he cared for me. That was clear to me. That was clear. Then if you've got that, if the person's got the wisdom to show you your mind and you trust that they want the best for you, then that's the best relationship. But it's hard work because if, you know, we don't like seeing our delusions. We don't like seeing our mind. It's not comfortable, you know. So, I mean, my own experience is really telling us, you know, how we check on a Lama. You check carefully. You don't just jump in emotionally and just be full of attachment. You can see that in the modern world. We really have no idea of the depth of the importance of this relationship, actually. I think we don't treat it. I think we meet people and can you be my teacher, please, they say. And the word teacher in English is the word we use. We don't have a real equivalent of the Sanskrit guru, which I've heard means heavy with qualities. Is a beautiful word, isn't it? And the word Lama is the equivalent. So I don't know, when I looked up the dictionary and found the definition of mentor, it's a really excellent word, actually. Maybe that's probably, let me just look up the definition, I'll tell you. Definition of mentor. It's a really nice word. An experienced, listen to this, an experienced and trusted advisor. An experienced, that's completely logical, and trusted advisor. I think that's a great definition. I don't know. I think that's probably the best word. I mean, I know you Italians and maybe you Spaniards say the word master, but that's kind of doesn't really convey much, you know. But mentor, I don't know, we never use it much, but a spiritual mentor, a trusted and experienced. That's very sweet, actually. So for me, that was so clear with Lama Yeshe, and of course with Lama Zopa now, and indeed any other lamas we can have. Because but the difficult part, this is where the Buddhist one diverges in the seriousness of it, you know. It's hard to see the logic sometimes of why we need to develop what they call pure view. This is not how we think in our culture. Let's talk about that. I think, again, there's logic to it. If we can understand the logic of it, not just hear it in a superstitious way. So, okay, what's our job as a Buddhist? Bottom line, our job is to rid the mind of delusions, rid the mind of ego grasping, attachment, anger, and the other thousands of misconceptions that are the source of our suffering and the source of why we harm others. So Buddha has found these amazing methods of how to literally rid the mind of these. The other job to do is to develop to perfection all the other parts of our mind: love, wisdom, compassion. This is indicated by the etymology of the word Buddha. It's so clear. So if that's our job, that means at any given moment, if I've got a choice to have a deluded thought or a positive thought, logically, I need to want to have a positive thought, not a deluded one. So therefore, it is logical that we start with the spiritual mentor. We learn, and we can see this in especially the Tibetan Buddhists and the Vajrayana, you learn to cultivate the view that this person is actually the Buddha. This person is actually the Buddha. Now, if you're training your mind to think that your Lama in a human body is the Buddha, that's a tough one, because we don't even know what it means, a Buddha. And this is a problem too. We look at the statues, like behind me, look at this Thai statue, and that's the Buddha. We go, oh, there's the Buddha. But think about this. If you were back in India at the time of the Buddha, with his yellow robes on, there were thousands of sadhus running around India. You would never be able to recognize just by looking at which one was a Buddha and which one not. You wouldn't have, no way in the universe could you possibly judge, because we're not clairvoyant. And the fact of the matter is, a Buddha does not need a body. The Dharmakaya, the word for the Buddha's mind, is a totally developed consciousness that pervades the universe, that is pervaded by wisdom and pervaded by compassion. They have gone way beyond the need to have gross bodies. So the only reason a Buddha consciously chooses to be born into a body is for the sake of sentient beings. So that by definition, a Buddha doesn't need a body. So to say, oh, he looks like a Buddha is a joke. We don't know what it means. So we say, oh, the Dalai Lama is the Buddha. Well, I'm sorry to say, if you're not clairvoyant, you do not know that is certain. Yes, practice every day, cultivating the pure view that he is the Buddha. That's the practice. But don't be so bizarre to think that you know he's a Buddha, where it's completely absurd to say that. So then, So then immediately what happens is this. We have this naive idea that if a person is a Buddha, then he must be nice. But excuse me, if my spiritual mentor, if I've given the permission to Lama Zopa and Lama Yeshe to show me my mind, that is always not necessarily comfortable. So if the vague logic that we have, which is mostly attachment, is, oh, therefore he must be nice all the time, he's a Buddha, that's beyond insane. One time I wanted to have a quick word with Lama Zopa when he was in France. And Annette, Venerable Annette I saw her walk into the office, Rinpoche was there, and she said, Rinpoche, Robina just needs a quick word. He didn't say anything. She had to say it 4 times. He ignored her. He ignored me, in fact. So I had to walk away. Now, if I was upset, attached, how dare Lama Zopa do that? That's not how a Buddha should behave. Then within 5 minutes, you're suing Lama Zopa, because he made me feel bad. I mean, this is very typical behavior. And this is really the normal worldly behavior. If a person is rude to you, you probably wouldn't tolerate it. But this is where we have to understand what the job of the Lama is. If we don't understand that, you're going to get lost, I promise you. And if you don't have trust, a trusted and experienced advisor. So if I knew Mr. Lee was good at Kung Fu, he could tell I wanted his Kung Fu. I went to 6 classes, for God's sake. Then he pushed me. And I was grateful he pushed me, because I knew he wanted me to learn Kung Fu, and he knew I wanted his Kung Fu. So he pushed me beyond the normal limits. But I was honored that he pushed me. I didn't try to sue him. But that's got to come from my side. It's got to come from me trusting Lama Yeshe, trusting Lama Zopa. That's why if you don't check, you have no basis for trust. Once you've checked, I checked these lamas, I committed to Lama Yeshe. It's like we shook hands. You do your job, Robina, and I'll do mine, Lama's saying. So my job is to keep my mind open, know that Lama Yeshe, I practice seeing him as a Buddha. So necessarily, therefore, logically, everything he says and everything he does would be the action of a Buddha for the benefit of his disciples, including Lama Zopa ignoring me, which on a worldly level isn't good behavior. But Lama Zopa could immediately see my mind, could immediately see I didn't need to have a meeting with him. I trusted him, so I got the teaching. This is not complicated, but we have to go into this as adults, not like babies full of attachment, which is the trouble in our culture. We don't even understand so the bottom line is this: because we don't understand the concept of pure view, and we don't understand that what I would have to want to have every day is a positive thought, not a deluded one. So who would be the beneficiary of me being, who would suffer from me being angry with Lama Zopa? How dare he ignored me? What kind of person would do that? That's an angry thought. It's a deluded thought. It's a self-centered thought. So who would suffer from this? Not Lama Zopa, me. So who would get the benefit of me interpreting it in a clear way? Me. It's a no-brainer, but we've got to think this through. If we just follow attachment, it's a complete disaster. You get upset. It's like you're treating him like a boyfriend. You're in love with him in the beginning, and then he starts to like another student more, and then you start being paranoid, and you start finding fault, and how dare he do this, and how dare he do that? Then you're lost. You're completely lost. So it really is a serious relationship. I mean, as we know from the Vajrayana, you use your own view of your Lama as being a Buddha in your meditations. And the other part of this is, as Lama Yeshe points out, we're all dying for love. So if you're going to want someone to love you, love is wanting you to be happy. Compassion is wanting you not to suffer. You need to find a person who has that for you. That's a rare thing, with no strings attached, no attachment, no agenda. That's the Lama, So choose them very carefully, and then you do your job. You commit, you see them as the Buddha every day. And then the simple fact about that is this: when we understand delusions, when delusions are in the mind and they predominate, what you're doing is closing your mind. Your heart is closed. You're living in some ridiculous view in your own head. It's necessarily self-centered. You can't see reality, and you're lost. When your mind has got virtue in it, and wisdom and confidence and trust and intelligence, your mind is open. Your heart is open, and you can quickly learn. The delusions blind us, prevent us from learning, prevent us from hearing reality. But devotion is an incredible quality where your heart is open. So choose the object of your devotion very carefully, and then it's long-term commitment. because you are the beneficiary, nobody else. The Lama doesn't need our love. The Lama doesn't need us. They've done the job. Mr. Lee didn't need me to practice Kung Fu. He's already done it. So the onus is on us, and it's logical if we think through all the things, not just hearing it as 14th century scary teachings, So that's my answer. I don't know if that helps. And are there any questions from that? Is that helpful to you, Anugraha? Good, darling. Good. And the other one is, I think I've known the Lamas, 45 years, I don't know what it is now, something like 45 years. And I think I can count on maybe 2 hands, maybe 3 hands, the personal meetings I have had with both of them, probably less than 15 in 45 years. Because if I'm working for them, so I know they're taking care of me. They are my teachers, so I know they know my mind. I know exactly, they know what I'm doing, and I know exactly that if I were doing, that they would always take care of me, and therefore I always doing whatever job I'm doing, I know it's the right job. My job is to put into practice their teachings. They've given enough teachers. That's why my heart breaks when I see how few of their books have we put out to the world. 50 years of teachings. There must be hundreds of books among all their teachings. It breaks my heart that so few are out there, All the advice is there. And so if I think of, instead of thinking, oh, I haven't had any personal meetings with my Lama, it's so rude. I don't need it, The teachings are there. And then the second one is, this is the one this is a really crucial one, I think. People get lonely. People feel no one loves them. People don't feel they have love in their lives. This is true, how we are. But so having a relationship in your mind with your spiritual mentor, your Lama, your guru is super personal. You don't need to have their physical body there. If you have faith in the teachings and you understand the logic of what the Dharmakaya is, it is literally true that their mind pervades the universe. Their mind is literally present. This all comes from studying the teachings. If you don't study the teachings, you don't have a basis for understanding guru devotion. And then the slightest thing goes wrong, and then you freak out. I see this in students all over the world, in all the different traditions. If you haven't learned the teachings, if you don't understand the meaning of a Buddha, if you haven't learned the Bodhisattva teachings even a little bit, you don't have a basis except just some sentimental view of guru devotion, So it's really necessary the more you have those teachings. But devotion is a quality in your heart that is an openness and to think about. So when, we might do our practices and we'll do our visualization of say the deity, and then you think it's the guru, but you never think about the guru for the rest of the day. The guru, it's like, when I was a Catholic, as a little girl, I was in love with God. I thought of God all the time. That's the real way to nourish your heart, to think of your guru, to pray daily in an ordinary language to your guru. That's the way to grow your heart, not just make it some technical thing that you do on your cushion. Because we've got unhappy minds, we get deluded, So you talk to your Lama, please bless my mind, please protect me, please look after me. You talk to your Lama in your mind. That's how it was for me when I was in love with God. I talked to Our Lady, I talked to the saints, I talked to God. That nourishes your heart. It's really important because this is a real relationship, But we do the work. We do the work. I don't know. Anybody got any questions? Sandeep, yes.
Sandeep, can you please unmute?
No, yes, Sandeep, yes. Talk to me.
Yeah, hi. First of all, thank you. I started following you guys since November last year, and I already began my journey. I will say that I'm the beginning of the race. Race is not the right word though. I read a couple of books.
Yeah, good. Sandeep.
I read a couple of books and I achieve kind of peace with it. It's good.
Mm.
But I am more interested in the Madhyama mark as explained in an um, uh, Buddhism. I
Good.
am not interested in being a full-time monk, or
Mhm.
I want to keep continue working, and I want to achieve
Mhm.
more. But at the same
Good.
time, I want to keep
Good.
following you guys.
Good.
So
Yes. What's the question? Yeah.
my question was, I already read a couple of books. How to begin? I started following one which was explained in one of your videos earlier recording that in the beginning of the day, you start taking shelter in Buddha's presence. I have started that, but like I can say I only achieved 5%. My question was how you begin your journey with Buddhism.
I understand.
And
I think the broad answer there, Sandeep, it's a bit like any, I think to bring it down to earth, again, it's important. If you think of any body of knowledge, have you got some kind of profession? Did you study some particular body of knowledge in your life, Sandeep? Sandeep, talk to me. You've muted yourself again.
yes, I work in IT sector, computer.
Okay, good. So you start. So then, if you ask the question, how do I start with IT? You'd answer. How would you, if someone asked you that question, where do I begin? What would you tell the person? What would you say? What's the advice you'd give them?
It was my first love.
No. What's the advice you'd give somebody who asked you, Sandeep, how can I start with? How do I begin with IT? What would you tell them? What's your advice?
I'll ask their intention, what you really want to achieve.
No. What's the
And
advice you'd give them to start? You asked me, where do I begin? You asked that, didn't you?
yeah, right.
So if I want to study IT and learn it, and I say to you, where do I start, Sandeep? What would you advise me?
I will say start with basics. If you want to go with software, then you have to
Okay.
learn
Okay.
that language.
Okay. So
If you want to go
basically,
with
the first thing is I'd have to know what I want, isn't it? Roughly.
yeah,
Wouldn't I, Sandeep? So then we all
yeah,
know, then you have to learn, so, the Buddhist one, it mightn't be evident in the beginning, but if you certainly look at the Tibetan Buddhist tradition of the monastic university system, which is based on the great Nalanda tradition from 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th century India, it's a really, if you want to seriously jump in the deep end, you would start studying the philosophy, the psychology, the metaphysics. You would start engaging in the study of all the material. That would be one thing. But the other one is you develop some kind of personal practice morning and evening. So typically when a person commits to becoming a Buddhist, that will be one of your first steps. You'd commit to being a Buddhist once you've checked up and you feel certain it is your path. You would then formally take refuge and take the 5 layperson's vows, and then you would commit to a daily practice. Even though it's a small practice, we all are creatures of habit and form, aren't we? It helps to start the day with something, and it helps to finish the day with something. That's how you would start. I mean, many of the centers now online, I'm sure Tushita as well, but the center, for example, I'm involved with in New Mexico has a really full program. You'd engage in meditations. You'd start getting a sense of the whole curriculum. You would start studying a little bit every day until the whole path started to become like any body of knowledge. When you first enter it, it's confusing, but the more you look into it, the more you study it, the more coherent it becomes. It's exactly the same here, Sandeep. The difference is you'd have a personal practice. It's good to start the day with something, a little bit of practice, a little bit of meditation, or 5 minutes of reading something, and you motivate to lead your day nicely, and then you finish with a purification practice at the end of the day. That's the broad answer, Sandeep.
thank you. I'm sorry, I forgot to wish you Happy New Year.
Oh, same to you. Okay, Sandeep.
Thank you.
Keep moving. Basically, Sandeep, keep moving. Trust your heart, but want to get something stable, and you'll slowly find the way. You'll find centers that have good study programs that suit you, and there's plenty around these days. So keep doing your research, okay?
Thank you.
Good. Thank you so much. 11:30, 10:30. Okay, we've got 25 minutes. Yes, people, come on, more questions. Anybody at all?
Venerable Robina, there is one person, she asked a question on the chat. She feels a little bit uncomfortable asking you directly. And she says, thinking of my guru brings tears, maybe of devotion to my eyes. Has this ever happened to you? And if so, why does this happen?
Well, I mean, we're all different. I don't want to sound cold-hearted, but no, I don't usually cry. Maybe I've just got a cold heart. Maybe your heart's very big. I think it's a wonderful quality. It's a wonderful thing. It's marvelous if your heart is so devoted that just thinking about them, the Holy Lamas say that. I'm very impressed by that. I must say that never occurs to me. I mean, but I have devotion, so what can I say? We're all different people. So I think it's a marvelous quality. Just thinking, you know, if you think of your lamas and you have this devotion, I think that's very, very special. Well done. It's amazing. But you know, sometimes, to say this, sometimes we can confuse devotion with attachment. And I'm not saying this for you. I have no idea. But sometimes we can often be some people have a very big heart, but sometimes can be sentimental. And it'll be attachment. And that's really, so we really got to watch that. The real test of if it's mainly attachment is if the Lama is tough with you. You know, if the Lama is tough with you, then we can't, if we get upset and offended, it shows there's attachment there. But if you're grateful and you're grateful for the teaching, that shows your devotion is very good, very sound. It's a very interesting point. Thank you so much. So suddenly we have 4 people, Nayan, Richa, Mupal, and Pratima. Please all talk to me. Nayan, you talk first.
Hello, Venerable. Happy Losar.
Yes.
Venerable, I was very fortunate. Myself and my husband, we both are listening to your teachings right now. Yeah. And very fortunate to have attended your teachings in person in October 2018 at Tushita. And that was like a very little time after my mom passed away. And it was like a very, very brilliant experience to go through that whole session of the residential retreat that we did. And I've been connected with Tushita on a regular basis.
Good.
With 2 years of COVID being at home. And
yes.
My question here is, no matter how much I try, I still have this huge procrastination. And my husband and I, both of us, we kind of keep putting things tomorrow. We will do it next week. We will do it tomorrow. So this procrastination is a big, huge hurdle to living daily life. And then, you know, kind of trying to do the things the way we visualize them. We know our goal. This is what we want to do. This is where we want to be. We are not able to actively pursue the steps that are required. And the procrastination...
So are you discussing here, Nayan, are you discussing your practice that you're procrastinating about? What is it you're procrastinating about?
It's not just about the Buddhist practice. It's about our daily routine, our daily choices of doing things in life. And you just generally you know that this is important for you for doing the next step in life, but you just procrastinate. You put it to tomorrow. I'll do it in the evening. I'll do it next week. It's just this habit that if a person wants to get rid of this, how do you do that?
I know. So I think, Nayan, it's really, this is the main suffering of all of us, you know, to one degree or another. So let's analyze this procrastination. So as we know, they teach in the 6 perfections of the Bodhisattva, there are the first 4 perfections, which is what the Bodhisattva does from life to life, working with sentient beings, gathering the courage and strength of wanting to benefit others. The first one they call generosity. The second one is called morality, is the work of helping, of benefiting others. The third one is called patience. And the fourth one is, they say, the most important. And they say they either call it effort or joyful effort or enthusiasm or perseverance. They all refer to the same attitude. So what's rather depressing but very clear is the opposite of this enthusiasm, the opposite of this joyful effort is literally called laziness. So they often talk about the first, I like to divide them into 2. And the one you're mentioning, that's the second one. So the first one, and we can all see this, Nayan, this is the analysis we need to do. So the very first one, so-called laziness, we all know it. It's, oh, I can't be bothered. And then we have to analyze, what is it? This is really important, Nayan. This is the thinking, the analysis, to break it down. What is it we can't be bothered doing? Is the thing that takes effort. So what is the thing that takes effort? Is the thing that attachment doesn't want. You see, when we understand that attachment is this primordially deep delusion that basically runs the show, and the most primordial level of it is this craving to stay in our comfort zone, physically and mentally. We all know, if you go to the gym and you start doing your rowing or your running machine, you're all excited in the beginning. Now look what happens when it starts to become difficult. That is the moment you have to now stretch beyond your comfort zone and literally make effort. And attachment doesn't like that. Attachment wants to be comfortable. It's primordially deep inside all of us, Nayan. Now that's the first level of laziness. We've got to catch it. So then the second one, which is really like the first one too, is then you say, oh, go to the gym one morning, you feel good about it. And the next day you go to the gym. And the third morning you wake up and you think of the gym and suddenly you can't be bothered. But then you say, oh, I'll do it later. That's one of the worst crimes against ourselves. And it happens, as you know, unbelievably quickly. So again, what is the thing we say, I will do it later? What is the thing we procrastinate about? Again, is the thing that takes too much effort. So we can't stand making effort. Now, to get what attachment wants, we make unbelievable effort. If we really want something, nothing will deter us. So the key point here, and we haven't finished, is even a more subtle level of laziness. The real key here, Nayan, the answer to your question, and this is why it's difficult, all the lamas say, but it's so logical. The only reason you will ever make effort is when you are clear about the benefits. Now, we know the benefits of money. We know the benefits of a profession. We know the benefits of a nice house. I mean, I'm talking ordinary life, not being moralistic. So that's why we make effort. We know the benefits of a healthy body. That's why we make effort. We do our yoga. Go to the gym. We control our diet. We know the benefit of good health. So we will not eat the foods that we find so delicious. We know it takes effort, but because we know the benefit, we will then do it. So if you don't know the benefit, and Nayan, is so much harder to realize the benefits of spiritual practice. That's way more difficult for all of us. So this is the analysis, honey. We have to be very clear with ourselves. So that means there's no shortcut. You have to catch your mind. But this is also where making some clear decisions. You know this. You know very well you have certain commitments in life. You've got to go to work. You've got to do this. You've got to clean the house. You've got to do this with the kids. There's no way you won't do it because it's slotted into your timeline. You have to slot it into your life. You have to just decide 10 minutes. Don't be unrealistic, but 10 minutes for your practice in the morning, 10 minutes for your practice in the evening. And you look at your lives very carefully and you make clear decisions. Otherwise, it ends up being you get guilty, and then guilt makes you more miserable, and then you end up doing nothing. And then you have all these unrealistic expectations. So you've got to be very logical and clear with yourselves. So if it's your daily life, you must sit down together and make plans. We know you don't do anything without a plan. But if you suddenly think, oh, I should do that and I should do this, but you haven't thought it through. So you're going to be much more rational and clear and more humble with yourselves and make clear decisions and decide, I will do it. Everything exists on the tip of the wish, as Lama Zopa says, and that means intention, not motivation. That's the meaning of the word karma. I will. If you don't say, I will, you will never do anything. The third kind of laziness, honey, is, no, I can't do that. That's impossible. I can't achieve that. And that we cut ourselves off at the knees if we say that one. So it's all because of attachment, sweetheart. It's primordially deep in all of us. Are we communicating?
Yes, yes.
That's the analysis, darling.
Yeah, that's a very good description. How do you get rid of the attraction of comfort?
I've just given you the answer, darling. I'm sorry to tell you that. There's no shortcut. You have to counteract it with something.
Yes.
You have to counteract it, sweetheart. There's no choice. We know. You listen to me, please. You know. You have to have a disciplined life. You've got to go to work. You've got to have this. You know you'd rather lie back and sleep and go to the football or whatever you do. You know that. But you're already making effort and being disciplined. You know you can do it. You've got to make, like I said to you, you've got to make decisions, sweetheart. Not just be vaguely guilty. That's not helpful. I should do this and we should do that, because that can be the other extreme, that no matter what you achieve, you're always dissatisfied. And that's brutal. You can be more humble with yourselves, more gradual, and you make decisions and you just decide. But you have to know the benefits. You've got to do this thinking. This is the answer. There's no shortcut. There's no magic. And the fact of the matter is, we know when we make the effort, immediately you go against the grain, immediately you go against, oh, I can't do it later, I will do it later. As soon as you know, I will do it now, you feel really good about yourself. So remember that benefit to yourself, but have the long-term benefit of why you're going to do it. Then you'll persevere. So you've got to do the thinking. It's not just, it doesn't come automatically. You have to do the thinking. You have to be responsible and decide. And it's good if two of you decide together. Then you support each other.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sweetheart. Yes, Richa. Richa Sharma, yes. Richa. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Hello. Yeah.
Namaste, Venerable.
Namaste.
So my question is, what does practicing kindness actually mean, and how do we do it? Because
I missed the question. What?
my question was, what does practicing kindness actually means, and how do we do it? Because for me, what I have felt is, when you are being kind to people, they start dominating you, and people start taking you as if you are available and you will do anything and everything for them.
Exactly. Very good point. Very good point. As His Holiness the Dalai Lama says, compassion is not enough. We need wisdom. Now, that's not some mystical idea. When we understand our delusions, Risha, when we understand attachment and our anger and our depression and our anxiety, we all have these. That's the work of the wisdom wing. A bird needs two wings, wisdom and compassion. Compassion is actually more advanced. So if we, as a normal person, if we have it, especially the attachment to being seen as a good girl, we all have that attachment, darling. It's a very deep attachment. And it's so hard to see it, because if you've been a good girl and you are a good girl and you are mummy's helper and you are kind to people, what we don't see, and this is what's difficult, that it's driven by our attachment to being a good girl. And then that's what makes us vulnerable. Kindness in itself cannot make you vulnerable. It's only when it's polluted by attachment, and it's quite hard to see it. When you're scared to say no, and we don't see this. It feels tough to say we've all got attachment to being liked, but that's the deepest attachment we have. The deepest attachment, more than sex or drugs or rock and roll or food or anything else. It's the most primordial and the hardest to see. So if you are a kind person and you don't have much anger and you're not mean to people, this is marvelous. Don't get rid of the kindness, but learn to see yourself, learn to see this neediness to be seen as a good girl, because that's what causes you to be suffering. That's what causes people to manipulate you, because it makes you weak. But don't give up the kindness, but it's a really tough job, darling. Are you hearing me? Are we communicating? Do you recognize what I'm talking about? It's not easy. It means knowing your own mind. And that's what His Holiness means by the wisdom wing. They say a bird needs two wings, and I quote it all the time. Wisdom and compassion. It's a bit mystical to us, but wisdom comes from knowing yourself, living in vows, being a good person, being ethical, working on your attachment, working on your aversion, working on your anxiety, working on your jealousy, knowing your mind very, very well. From this comes more clarity and more inner strength. And then your compassion and kindness become wiser and more skillful, and you will not get misused and abused then. It's a slow learning, darling. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, darling. Yes, who's next there? Mupal, talk to me.
Hi, namaste.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm very grateful to have this session. I'm really grateful for you. Thank you so much for all this session. Yeah, ma'am, actually, I wanted to know that around a year or 2 years ago, I was surrounded by those people.
I'm sorry, what? You were surrounded what?
Yeah, can you hear me? Am I audible?
I didn't hear the word. Surrounded by what?
Surrounded by few people who were...
Some people, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, who were not treated well, and the behavior was not that much well, against me. So now I'm still connected with them, but not with them, but I'm staying away from them. But I'm unable to forgive them. I want to forgive them, but I'm unable to do that.
What have they done? So who are these people in your life? They're friends you spend time with. They're people at work. Who are they?
Actually, around 5 years ago, I was got spiritual awakening. Then I found a very nice life, and I found that what energy is, what is that. Then I went into the relationship with my husband, and after a few years, we decided to get married. Then this is my family member. Actually, this is my husband's family members. So their behavior was not that much well, and they, shout, thrown very bad words.
Hang on, darling, wait a minute. So these are people in your life, and what you're saying is that, because you said I can't forgive them. I mean, you mean, do they hurt you? Do they harm you?
Yeah, I can forgive them.
In what way? How do they harm you, darling? How do they harm you?
They did not harm me. They just told me bad words. That's all. They did not hit me.
That's harm. That's criticism. So they're judging you. They're angry with you. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot. They judged me. They, comparison, a lot of things.
I understand. So does this happen every day, every month? What?
Yeah, every day, every month, like every couple of days.
So your husband supports you or them?
In a both side, like they try to convince me that this is not what they try to do. But
so what do you think your solution is? Because this is quite difficult. What do you think your solution is?
Like, I have already saluted the situation. Now I'm not staying with them no longer. I'm here in a different house. But whenever that thoughts come into my mind, then that really disturbs me.
I understand that, darling. I understand. So you've made a decision, and now you've moved out of living with these people. So you and your husband now live in your own house. Is that right?
Yeah, but sometimes
wait a minute. So you don't see them every day, or you see them every day?
No, I don't see them every day now.
Okay, good. So you've made a good choice. That's very wise. So, sweetheart, it's not easy to forgive. I understand that. It's not easy, but you have to sort of know are you practicing Buddhism, or is Buddhism your path, or you have another path, or what?
Yeah, this is my first time. Like, this is your first session when I'm...
okay. Well, then, darling girl, it takes time, sweetheart. But what's important first? I mean, do you feel your husband supports you? This is important.
Yeah, this is important.
Does he support you?
Yeah, he supports me. He loves me.
Okay, good. This is important. But I'll tell you, it takes time to learn to know your own mind so you can eventually forgive. But you've made the right choice, keeping separate. But I think another thing to do is not talk, because it's your husband's family, it wouldn't be wise to talk about them all the time to him. That makes it difficult for him. So I think try not to talk about it, but do your best to protect your mind from being angry. Try not to be angry. Try to know this is human beings. This is how they are. This is their problem. I've done nothing wrong. You've made a wise choice. Try and be positive. Try not to talk about it to your husband. That will be difficult for him. It makes it difficult, and not for your own mind. Try not to think about it all the time. Try just to protect yourself. And I mean, then eventually, if you do get a practice, it's really, you'll eventually be able to give up being angry. And you see, the key point is, forget about forgiving them. The first thing is to see how uncomfortable your anger makes you feel. You're angry with them, aren't you? Because they've hurt you, right?
Yeah.
Try to see the pain that anger causes you. So for your own benefit is my first point. Forget about forgiveness. My first point is to try and protect your own mind from thinking about it all the time, and try not to be angry, because that hurts you. That's the first step, darling. And keep away from them. It's sensible. It makes sense not to be allowing people to abuse you. But you've got to try and protect your own mind by not being angry, and try not to talk about it to your husband. Then if you don't talk about them, it will become less important to you. You understand, sweetheart?
Yeah. I don't talk about them at all.
That's good. That's good. And if
but in my mind, every day, whenever I wake up, whenever I'm alone, that thoughts hits me.
But that's what I'm trying to tell you. Just try and have the discipline. We are capable. We are capable, Mupal, slowly to control our thoughts. You've got to learn to control those thoughts and see how they cause you pain. This is what we are doing if we are a practitioner. So maybe you have to find methods to help you, because that's what's causing you the pain, thinking about them. You have to learn to find ways to not be angry with them. That's better for your mind. See the benefit to you of not doing that. Try your best. That's all you can do. And if you like the spiritual teachings and you like the Buddha's teachings, you can start to get some meditation, and that might help you. So just keep going, go to other classes and see if you can get some benefit from that. That's my advice.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. I started my meditation. I started my yoga. I have a very good routine.
Important. You use these. And the main thing is try and not let the stories go in your head. That'll make you crazy, darling. Try and just stop the stories. Don't suppress. But if you keep thinking about it, you'll get so upset. And that's not good for you.
Okay.
All right? Good, darling. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So a couple more questions. We have to go soon. So we have many more questions. I think we'll run out of time. Kunpen. So what about, Pratima? Talk to me.
Pratima, could you unmute?
Thank you so much for your teachings, Venerable Robina, which I follow very closely. And one of the teachings that you have constantly given is how to be your own therapist. Yeah. I meet many people, especially after the COVID pandemic, who are in need of therapy. I'm not a professional therapist, but I'm a teacher, so I get a lot of requests for some kind of counseling. Exactly. I'm mostly inadequate, and I find that your teachings are so good. What advice can you give me to direct people who come to me for therapy advice towards you?
No, Pratima, I think that's good. That you can do eventually, but my sense is you should have confidence that you can help them. You're clearly a sympathetic person. You've understood that you've got some understanding. So it's nice to lead them to other people, but they've got a connection with you, and you should try to help them the best you can. And sometimes you just have to listen and show a sympathetic ear. You don't have to give them all the answers. So my feeling is you should have more confidence in your own ability to help them. And then if a relationship perseveres, and maybe you can say, well, let's go to this class together. They might listen. They might, but I think you don't. I think you have more confidence that you can do it. You can help people. Don't you worry.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You have confidence, please. And then whatever you've learned from listening to other people, you can help them with that. That's how it works. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Good, darling. Thank you so much. Okay, Venkatesh, what have you got? Venkatesh, what are you? Talk to me.
A very good evening. Namaste, Robina Mata.
Yes.
Good evening.
Yes.
Actually, I'm 30 years old. I am at a crossroads. At one time, I feel like I have to pursue the spiritual path. On the other side, I feel like I have to go the materialistic way due to my parents' pressure. And I don't know which one is correct. I feel at times to take both paths. But
I understand. So first of all, the things that your family want, is it possible for you to do that and you want it as well as combine it with a spiritual practice? Because it doesn't contradict. I mean, unless you decide to give up everything and go and become a monk, most people practice within the lay person's life, you know? I mean, is it really against what you want, what they're expecting of you? I mean, they want you to get married and have babies, right? That kind of thing. Is that what you're saying? Unmute. So are you saying
not only having children, not only having a family, but they want me to be in a job which is well paying, where I'm settled. But at the same time, I have a sort of interest in teaching meditation and spirituality to young kids in Africa. That is my vision.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, you know, I mean, this is where, and I know in certain cultures where the family has a very strong pull, I mean, you have to have the courage in the end to make the decision that you think is right, which might be the decision to have your family disappointed. I think we have to have the courage to make these decisions. As His Holiness the Dalai Lama says, always aspire to do what is most beneficial. And if we can, long-term, better than short-term. So you need the courage to every day, maybe you're not sure, but every day think, I really want to do what is most beneficial. And if you feel this is the right choice, then you have the courage to make that choice, even if your parents are upset. You need that courage if you can. That's up to you. Every day think, I want to do what is most beneficial. May I do what is most beneficial, and mean it sincerely, and see where that leads you, and have courage and be prepared to be criticized. Because in the end, we have to do, I mean, even the story of Buddha is such a perfect story. He gave up an entire kingdom. He went against his father's wishes. He probably broke his father's heart, but he knew it was the long-term benefit. So if you really feel that's what you want to do and it's a viable thing, then you must do that, but have that courage. And don't talk about it too much. Just in your heart, aspire every day to always want to do what is most beneficial. And then
actually, what makes it more difficult is that I am the single child and I don't have a father. So my mom's a single parent.
I understand that. That's exact. You have to have that. You have to decide. And you have to aspire every day. May I do what is most beneficial? And you don't, I mean, even put it this way. Let's just say you don't even know what is beneficial yet, but to have the wish to do what is most beneficial, that will even cause you to make the tough choices if you have to. So it's the thought that you want to do what's most beneficial, whatever it might be. That's what I'm trying to say. Are we communicating?
Yeah, I am able to listen to you. Thank you very much.
Have that in your heart and don't talk about it much to anybody else. Just keep it deep in your heart and always aspire to have this, to make the courageous decision, whatever's most beneficial. Think.
From where can I draw the courage, ma'am?
I beg your pardon?
From where can I draw the courage? Like I
in
feel
your own mind, in your own mind. In your own mind. And if you have faith in the Buddha, then you ask the Buddha for courage as well. But it's coming from you. It's got to come from you. The courage to know that your decision will hurt somebody. You can't help that. You can't help that. You cannot help that. But what I'm trying to say is, it could end up being that what is most beneficial is you to do your mother's wishes. I'm not saying this is the real point I'm making. I'm not saying which one is more beneficial. If you want to do what's most beneficial, that whatever that choice is, it will be the right choice. Are you with me?
Yeah, I'm with you, ma'am.
So go one step at a time. Every day you aspire for this. And if you have faith in the Buddhas, you pray for courage from the Buddhas to make the right decision. And don't talk about it much. There's no benefit.
So
okay?
I just have...
I beg your pardon?
I just have thinking of something that I should finish I move to this of my life.
I'm losing your words.
I'm a little bit confused. Should I?
I'm losing your words. I'm losing what you're saying.
Ma'am, I'm telling that currently I am having cross thoughts that should I finish my PhD and
I don't
then
understand
go into this domain, or should I directly go to words for spirituality?
Mostly your words are lost. I don't hear you. I'm so sorry. The bad connection.
Can you hear me now?
Hopefully, yes.
Ma'am, I'm at a crossroads, right? Whether I should pursue my higher education or should I go behind the dream of helping kids in Africa and something
Well,
like I don't.
Wrong. I mean, but I answered you. You know, you're just asking me the same question. Nothing wrong with getting a higher education. How long would that take you?
4 years.
And what would the degree be?
PhD, doctorate.
No, that's why would you want to do that? How will that help you? Teach children in Africa.
It would satisfy my mom's happiness. It would be.
I know that, but I just answered your question before. I gave you the advice that I think is best. You have to have the courage to aspire to make the right decision. You don't know at the moment what the right decision is. So you must aspire, may I make the right decision? What I'm trying to show is that thought every day will guide you to make the right decision.
I got you, ma'am. I got you. Thank you very much.
Trust the process, okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So yes, Anushri. Yes. Talk to me.
Thank you for your teachings. So my question is about the first seal that all compounded things are impermanent. Now, impermanence is not inherently positive or negative. It is just like a fact of life, and it is a part of the nature of the compounding of things. So we appreciate like half of the cycle, like we can appreciate birth, but not death. We can appreciate the end of exams, but not the beginning. So how do we kind of appreciate the disagreeable parts also?
By giving up attachment. You see, the point is, for example, you know, if you're in a, let's say, I always remember reading about one Hollywood actress who was in love with her husband, had a beautiful life, and she said, we will be together until we're 80. So that's because when attachment is getting what it wants, when everything is going beautifully, attachment is so happy and we grasp at it so strongly and we can't bear the thought that it will change. So it's devastating when it changes. So attachment wants to keep it permanent. And that is a danger because no such thing exists. So it's recognizing when the good things are happening that they are impermanent, and when the bad things happen, they are also impermanent. So learning to know, it's quite subtle, really, that things are in the nature of change. It doesn't, you know, not even just changing, meaning you will die or the relationship will end, not like that, but changing in a more subtle way. It's the nature of everything, changing moment by moment. So more and more we recognize that. And every time something happens in the day, you know, you break a cup that you're attached to and you're sad, realize it's impermanent. Something sad happens, you know, realize this is impermanent. You have to remind yourself every day, and then you get used to that. And then you get more courageous in the face of things that are bad, or in the face of good things ending. The suffering doesn't come from things changing. The suffering comes from attachment to wanting them not to change if they're good, and attachment to hoping they'll change if it's not good. It's attachment that's the problem. Are you with me? Are you with me?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Good. So final question, Sandeep. What's the question? No question.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It is my final question.
Yes.
I believe in power of meditations, and I believe that there are multiple types of meditations. Is there any book you could?
What do you believe in?
Meditation.
What do you mean by multiple? What do you mean by believe in meditation? What is meditation?
I believe it is a strong belief that you can achieve like whatever you were looking for, you will achieve it. But meditation.
I don't think that's the way Buddhism talks about meditation. What kind of meditation are you talking about?
No. I'm not saying this. It is my belief. Whatever you're looking for, you will find it. And I found you the way. That is first thing. Second thing is there any book you can suggest me to further advance my meditation? I use your video on YouTube, guided videos. They helped me a lot. Believe me, they helped me a lot. But I want to go further couple of things, like I was reading a book which mentioned a name of meditation. I'm sorry, I forgot the type of meditation. It was one of the Tibet monk used to do, and with that particular type of meditation, you can possibly control a temperature of your body.
No, I don't think that's, you're not, I think that's not taking you in the right direction. You know, if you like meditation, you like Buddha's teachings, you need to study Buddha's teachings. You need to study Buddha's teachings. You need to study Buddha's teachings. That's what I'm recommending. And there's many books there. Many start with something, you know, and then you'd have a daily practice, but you need to study Buddha's teachings, the Buddhist philosophy, the Buddhist understanding of everything. That's what you need to study. Meditation is not the only thing. That's just one part of it. That's what I'd like to recommend. So maybe you can go to the website of lamayeshe.com, lamayeshe.com, which is the teachings of my teachers, Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa. Just go to that website. They've got thousands of teachings, and you can start from there. And then you can get different books from there. I would recommend that, lamayeshe.com. Okay, that's my recommendation.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you then so much kindly, Kun Penla. We're finished. And,
thank you so much, Venerable Robina.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Palomans, and also Cilian. And who was the third one?
Bruno from Brazil.
Thank you. Thank you, dearest ones. Everybody, thank you. Okay. That's it.
Venerable Robina, could you lead us in a little dedication?
Okay, just thinking May, all these seeds we planted, 90 minutes we've been together, 100 minutes. Every moment there is as many seeds we've planted in our mind. So we think, I'm going to nourish these seeds from this moment forward with our effort to never give up, developing our wisdom, developing our compassion, so we can become like our lamas. This is really it, you know, and may we never give up doing that. So we dedicate this to all the sentient beings. Gewa di nudo dag lama sange drubgyone drowa chikyang marupa de sala gopa shog, and may compassion and bodhicitta grow and grow. Jang chob sem chog rinpoche ma ke panam ke gyu chig ke panyampa mepa yang gongne gondu baba shog, and may the right reincarnation of Lama Yeshe, Lama Tenzin Elso Rinpoche, may he live long, and may Lama Zopa Rinpoche live long, may His Holiness Dalai Lama live long, and may we live long if we're going to practice virtue, because the world needs virtuous people. So never give up, never give up, never give up. That's it. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Kun.
I hope we can welcome you very, very soon at Tushita again.
Yes.
Please.
Yes. Looking forward to it. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us on this very, very special day, the Losar Day, Tibetan New Year. And we hope to welcome you tomorrow again. So we have this program for the next 15 days. And every day we have another teacher. Tomorrow it will be at 4 p.m. Indian time, Jimmy Neal, who has been a long time student of Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa Rinpoche. And then the other way. Paula Chichester, we have at 4 o'clock, a long-term student of Lama Zopa Rinpoche's and Lama Yeshe's, and at 9 o'clock we have Jimmy Neal. So we would love to welcome you to that again. And then on the weekend we have also double teachers. Our resident teacher, Venerable Dharma, and Thupten Children. Venerable Thupten Children, I think many of you might be familiar with her or know her books. She's written many books. We will have them on the weekend. Thank you so much, and have a lovely day, lovely evening, wherever you are. Thank you. Thank you, Venerable Sayana. Thank you, Paloma, Venerable Paloma. Thank you, Bruno.